The opportunity to make thousands of dollars is literally everywhere you turn if you're able to solve real-world problems using AI and automation. Today, I'm going to show you how I built a workflow for a teacher for free and how it could make me thousands of dollars on repeat. I help builders and freelancers become high-ticket AI consultants and make big money solving big problems. If you're ready to stop struggling and start building your own high-ticket consulting business, click the link down below and book a call. You can also join my free school community so you can start landing those high-ticket clients and retainers. Now let's dive in. So I was recently approached by a special education teacher here in California because she's a friend of my sister. And originally I was just going to build a workflow for her out of the goodness of my heart because I have a soft spot for teachers because I used to be a teacher. We'll call her Jane, but Jane was spending probably 10 hours a week and about $80 a month, which on a teacher's salary here in the US is kind of a lot, sourcing worksheets for her special education classroom, which spans K through 6. So when you have all those different grades in one classroom across multiple subjects and special needs for each student, it was just taking up so much of her time and causing her so much stress. And in fact, she's been out multiple times this year because she's gotten sick from so much stress. And so I decided to build a system for her for free to solve those problems. And if you're wondering how creating free stuff for teachers could possibly yield thousands of dollars in revenue, you're going to want to stick around because there are 4 different ways that I can think of off the top of my head that I'm going to go about monetizing this. All right, so this is what I built. And even if you think I don't care to build anything for teachers or pursue that route, there are things that I want to point out in this workflow that you can use for other businesses. So we're just going to start with the beginning. So on form submission, what I did was I sent the production version of the URL to the teacher that's testing this for me, that's going to be the end user. And so these are the fields that I have included. Grade level, which is the text and it's a required field. The subject, so that would be like math, ELA, science, that kind of a thing. Also a required field. The topic, so that could be sight words or photosynthesis. That's also text and a required field. And then IEP considerations. So IEPs are basically individual plans that are created for each student that needs them. So if they have any kind of special needs like needing large print or needing extra time to complete activities or whatever, and they can cover a ton of different areas and needs. So we want to take those into consideration when we are generating these worksheets for this teacher. Obviously, you could change that so it's not an N8N form, but just for ease and simplicity, I chose to use that one because it's free and built into N8N. Next, we have the AI agent node. So it's connected to GPT-4o, and it has access to SERP API tool, which basically gives it the ability to do web searches. So if you've ever created something with an AI agent node within N8N and you're like, why isn't it searching the web when I'm giving it the instruction to do so? So when you're using ChatGPT on the front end, meaning you go to chatgpt.com and you're asking the model questions and asking it to check the web for like, what time is the basketball game on tonight? It's actually calling a tool. And so when it calls that tool to search the web, that's why it's able to do that. It's not built in to all of the knowledge and the data that it's been trained on. And so if you want your agent to be able to call a tool, you have to give it that tool and specify in your custom instructions or your system prompt how to use that tool and when. And then we also have a structured output parser. And so we'll go into that in just a second. But the reason for that is I wanted it to have a specific defined output and not just be adding commentary and doing all the crazy stuff that models can do sometimes. Okay, so the agent is receiving this information as the system prompt. So all of the input from the form. So that's grade level, subject, topic, and IEP considerations. And then you'll notice that I have the require specific output format toggled on. And whenever you have that toggled on, you need to connect it to an output parser. So that way it knows what the specific output is that you need. And then we have the system message. So this is very much a work in progress. And as the teacher is testing this for me, she's going to provide feedback in terms of what's working or what's not working. And I also have a step built into this workflow so that I have insight or access to the worksheets that are being generated so that I can visually see them myself. And I used to be a teacher, but also it's kind of common sense. If you've ever been in school and you know what those worksheets should look like, or if you have kids in school and you know what their worksheets are that they bring home, you have a good sense of if they look right or not. So I'll show you what I mean in just a second. But these are the system instructions I'm using. So you're a helpful assistant for a SPED teacher, which is special education in California. Your job is to help source ideal student worksheets according to the user prompt provided. You will utilize the user input to perform a search by calling the SERP API tool using the following format, and then it's basically spelled out here. So it's doing a Google search for images, which I'm going to talk about in a second, using all of the user inputs and then the word worksheets. And then we provide an example here. If there are no IEP considerations, omit this field from the search query. So basically, if the student doesn't have any IEP considerations, just don't worry about that. Don't include it and just search for grade level, subject, and topic. You are looking for example worksheets, image files that are relevant to the search query and will serve as inspiration for the next agent who will use them to create a worksheet for the teacher whom you are assisting. Important, prioritize using results from these sources. So those are just high quality educational material sources that we want to reference as much as possible when they're available. And then output the results of the 3 image URLs and description as follows. So I want it in this format. And then one last instruction, you're only to return image files. So we're not looking for HTML, we're not looking for text files or like website URLs. We specifically want image files. Okay, and basically if we come in here to the structured output parser, this is just copy and pasted the JSON example that it's going to use as its output template, but that's copied and pasted from the system instructions where it also lives. So this is just letting it know this is the format that we want it in. So it's just creating one JSON output that we can then pass to the next step in the workflow. Next, we have a split out node, and it's going to split it out by output.urls. And basically, that's just splitting it out one item at a time, as opposed to just an entire array that contains the URLs within it. And the reason for that is we are passing it on to this HTTP request. So the reason why I have this set up as an HTTP request is because I didn't realize that there was an analyze image native integration in N8N. So this is just the way that I have it set up, but you can also just use the node right here under the OpenAI analyze image. They work just the same, but let me show you what the body of this request looks like. So we're sending it to api.openai.com v1 chat completions. It's a post request. We're going to send headers and we're using authorization and then bearer in your API key. Obviously, I just changed this for the purposes of not doxing myself. And we want to send body as JSON using JSON. And then if I open this up, so this is the system message or the system prompt. You're an expert educational worksheet describer. Your job is to analyze the sample image and describe it in detail. And then it just goes more in depth in terms of what to say, like what size is the worksheet. Include a name and date field in the upper right-hand corner, which is pretty standard for worksheets, but it just gives additional context and information. And honestly, this is just the starting point. This is what I'm going to be tweaking over time as I get feedback from the teacher as she's actually testing this and using it. And then here I have the actual split out images from the previous node. So it's receiving these images one at a time, analyzing them, and then describing them for the image generation model that comes next. And the reason why I said that you can use this node or the analyze image node in way more use cases than building worksheets for a teacher. Let's say that you have a client and they work in construction and they need to look at blueprints and analyze those blueprints. You can actually send images of those blueprints and have the model analyze them, create an output that's going to be relevant for that business, and then pass it to the next node. So there are tons of use cases when it comes to using that node to analyze an image and then be able to create an output based on that analysis. You could have it analyze social media posts and give a critique, whether it's effective or not. You can have it analyze ads. So let's say you built a workflow for a client where it's analyzing competitor ads. You could say, you're an ads expert. I want you to look at these images and I want you to figure out exactly what makes this ad effective and then describe it to the next node, which is the image generator. And it's going to recreate that, but with the branding for your client. So the sky is the limit in terms of what you can do when you're analyzing the image and then generating a new image off the back of that. So just add that to your arsenal because this could be such a powerful part of your workflow. So now we go ahead and generate the image. We're using GPT Image 1, which is the newest image generation model from OpenAI. And then the instructions that I have are just really basic. You're an educational worksheet designer, output an A4 size PNG image using the following description. And I didn't really need to get super in detail because the description coming from the previous node is what's really detailed and that's doing all the work. So this is literally just generating an image based on that description. Okay, and then lastly, it's uploading the file to Google Drive, and that's just for my own review. And then it's sending the teacher an email with those image files so that she can review them, see which one works best. And then she has feedback, she can reply to me because I'm the one sending her the email and just say, hey, this one isn't the best, and here's why. So it's enabling her to give me real-time feedback as she's testing so that I can improve the system for her. And so this is just an example worksheet that was created. I can look right off the bat and see that there's no name or date in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to need to change the system instructions so that it's always including that. But in terms of like the image that's generated, that looks fantastic. In terms of the words that are on the page, the spelling is correct. The numbers are correct. The spacing looks good. This is something that a first grade student could look at and be excited to color, be excited to write on. So this is pretty close to what we need it to be and just needs a couple tweaks in terms of the name and the date in the upper right-hand corner. But the cool thing about this is it's building these images, generating these images based on the description, just a text-only description from the previous node. So even if it is modeling after a worksheet that is trademarked or copyrighted, it's changing it significantly so that the content is similar, but it's not infringing on anyone's rights. And this entire workflow runs for about 5 cents, and that's to generate 3 brand new worksheets from scratch. And it takes about 5 minutes. So 5 minutes of work that she doesn't have to be actively doing, and 5 cents to generate 3 worksheets. That's going to save her hours every week and close to $80 throughout the month, which again, on a teacher's salary is significant. Okay, these are the 4 different paths that I'm going to pursue to monetize this system. Number 1, licensing it to the County Office of Education or individual school districts. Even if I could license it to a few school districts for $500 a month, that's going to add up and it's going to pay over time. If the school districts or the County Office of Education don't want to pay for it, I could license it to individual teachers as a SaaS product. And I would charge them like $10 a month, so barely enough to cover the cost, but still enough to make a little bit of a profit and still save them money and time. I could also just let other teachers use it for free for a month or 2, and then start putting pressure on their administrators to pick it up and start paying for it. So basically using teachers as affiliates. And the 4th way that I can monetize this is I can go to the County Office of Education, schools, or districts and offer to do an AI and automation workshop. That way I can show teachers and administrators how they can set up their own systems to save time and save money. There's also a ton of grant money floating around out there, especially as it relates to technology projects. And hello, I used to be the director of STEM instruction when I was a director at a nonprofit for education. So I have a lot of education contacts and I know how to write grants. But those are just a few ways that one small workflow that you build for free even can become a repeatable asset that pays you over time. So hopefully this video showed you that there's money to be made everywhere using AI and automation. So if you're ready to price, package, and position yourself as a high-ticket AI consultant, click the link down below and book a call. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.